Hello, I'm Yovette Markey with the Safety Channel, and we have with us today Reverend Jesse Jackson.
So good to see you.
Thank you very, very much for taking the time to have this interview with us.
Yes.
Our audience is between 14 and 29, about, several million people, and we would love to hear your perspective on three questions in particular, because we have a small window of time with you because you're so busy here at this conference. The first one, Reverend Jackson, and we don't need to do much on your introduction, so I'm going to skip that. Everyone in the world knows who you are. This is the 18th anniversary of the Economic Conference for the Rainbow Push organization, which you founded. There was a huge contract that was put in place between you and Intel Corporation on this anniversary. And could you give us a little background on that for our audience? I know you've said something to our audience here, but for the people who are not here.
Silicon Valley, we use their products so much, Apple and Google and Microsoft and all of that. But it's basically been one-way trade. We trade with them. They don't trade with us. We need more STEM education. We need more computer science. We need scholarships for engineering and for athletics. And these are real needs. These companies are the top 20, 189 board members, 37 white women, 3 blacks and 1 Latino, basically locked out. At the C-suites, administration, even less. And unemployment down around 2 to 3%. And in terms of investment of capital for us to start businesses, almost zero. We just had to challenge that and change it because we are shareholders and we are consumers. We use our leverage to begin to change it around. Intel had a leader, Brian, had the idea that to make the EEO1 reports available, to put up $300 million. One part of it would go to building pipeline from black colleges to Silicon Valley with interns. Because if you want engineers, go to where they teach them. A&T, Howard, Hampton, Morehouse, Spelman, Florida A&M, Southern University, Tennessee State. They teach engineers, they teach math, and they teach science. And so that's one part. Another part has to do with employment, bringing it up to parity. The other part had to do with starting a pool of capital for startup companies. So many have brilliant ideas and can't get the incubator going. They can't get it going. So we want other companies to follow suit and do that as well, and have maybe a $2 billion pool of capital for investment. It's not come from the government, but it should in fact come from somewhere. And money exists, There may be $6 trillion in offshore tax money. 10% of that would be $600 billion. Some of that money could be used for infrastructure development, some for startup capital, but some plan to reconstruct where we live. And so students should be interested who are watching us because student loan debt is greater than credit card debt. The biggest stimulus we could have would be to forgive student loan debt based upon the degree. You get your degree, forgive student loan debt. It'd be an incentive to finish school, but also you'd end the boomerang where you leave home, it cause them back home because you can't get a job. So it's very exciting.
My second question to you then, I remember that Dr. Martin Luther King, whose birthday is tomorrow, spoke about the evil axis in a speech he made in 1968, his last speech actually, where he talked about the evil axis being for America to be watchful of racism, economic exploitation, and the excessive buildup of our military industrial complex. It seems like we're living that, even though we've warned us about that back in 1968.
Racism is a sin. It assumes that God made a mistake or flat out wrong and made people of different colors. God was right. It is a sin, and we fight racism because racism, like poverty, is a weapon of mass destruction. It leads to genocide, and we must in fact resist racism and gender bias at every level. We're all human beings. Measure human rights by one yardstick. Everybody matters, not just Black lives matter, everybody matters.
Please say that again.
Everybody matters, and so we should learn to love each other. We've learned to survive apart, now we must learn to live together. That's what must drive us forward. Because of credit card school, many of us pay more for less.
Right.
Work harder and make less. live under stress and don't live as long. And so I'm urging us to begin to learn the science of capital. For example, our children should have, in the first grade, they should learn the stock market game. Learn this, what's a bull, what's a bear, what does that mean?
Right.
What's profit loss, what's a checking account, what's a saving account? Begin to think of investing and saving, not just spending and blowing. Mm-hmm. If we capture that rhythm of that, we can be as good as we are at anything else in the world. We've gone from cotton balls to footballs, and we generate. NCAA last year made $5 billion. If one of our kids sells his or her jersey, they get kicked out of school. We challenge those laws. So if it was wrong to do the cotton picket that way, it's wrong to do the football picket the same way.
And the last question I'd like to ask you is, Reverend King talked about having a dream. And this is the 18th year of what's going to be 20 years pretty soon of this economic summit, conferencing. So I'd like to ask you, what would be your dream?
Well, for us as a society to become less violent, less hateful, learn to live and to love one another, live with and love one another, and to use our resources to further the quality of life. Dr. King's last great thrust was a job, income, and health care for every American. We can share America's prosperity. Right now, too few have too much. Mm-hmm. Too many have nothing. We must, in some sense, democratize capital and each have that which is sufficient to sustain us and allow us to grow and realize our full potential as human beings.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Markey. Thank you.